What up, y'all? What up? What up? I gotta admit, you know, actually, I'm parched. Let me take a sip. I gotta admit, yesterday was a very exhausting day in what has been an exhausting season when it comes to the Indiana Fever. That is specifically, you know, the it was almost like a during the day, it felt like a bait and switch in a sense where Caitlin Clark is out there doing the 5-on-0 work on the court. You see her running up and down the court, getting a shot up, and then just a few minutes later, Stephanie White sort of tempers any enthusiasm by repeating the same, 2-month never-ending timeline that has been going on, or I guess no timeline thing with the Caitlin Clark's return and that she hasn't been cleared for contact, which certainly made a lot of people feel like she's not coming back, and it made them feel like they've been strung along. Whether that is the case or not, that was the feeling in that moment. And it's probably, much more complicated than that, or it is much more complicated than that. And I do think it is actually much more a case of, not knowing when Clark is going to be back or when she'll be ready, versus how much time is left in the season for her to come back. What makes it worse, I think, was the setback with the ankle and the way that was handled, and the way that statement that was put out at the time, where it's impossible to know if her timeline was affected because there is no timeline. I mean, that's kind of insulting, right? So there's that, and it just kind of puts a bit of a dark cloud on the mood around the team going into the game against the Mercury, which makes the loss against the Mercury feel worse, even if the loss against the Mercury was to be expected. And even if the Fever are still in a good spot as far as the playoffs go, though, more of a perilous spot having lost that game. And I personally, on that situation, I would like, I posted this yesterday. Some people got bent out of shape about it, whatever. I would like to hear from Clark herself at some point, because I thought we heard from Clark last night. And that was the bit of the bright spot in the game. That was a bit of a bright spot in the game where there was this exchange with Caitlin Clark and DeWanna Bonner. And that, is sure to go viral. But Caitlin Clark having that sort of spiciness and that sort of feistiness shows to me her competitiveness is there. Her competitive drive is there. So that's the player I've seen and known on the court. And I have to imagine if she's ready, she's going to want to get back on the floor. So that's why I would like to hear more about, what the possibilities could be, where the ramp up process is, or hear from Clark herself, because seeing her in that moment made me feel she's engaged, made me feel like she's ready to play, at least from a mental standpoint. And that had been a bit of a question, or a bit of a worry, at least, given the myriad of injuries she's suffered. And the Fever continue to fight. You can't take that away from them. It's just they're running out of season to salvage. Only 3 regular season games left. The grip on the playoff guarantee and the playoff positioning getting more tenuous, because right now they'd have a date with the Minnesota Lynx. And Clark's status still unclear, even if, some think they've figured it out. And that was the whole deal to me. They've got the game on Friday against the Sky. That's at home. They should get a practice in between now and then. This was the Caitlin Clark moment right here with DeWanna Bonner, as you see. Hands up, like, come on. Get back to the shoe. and Bonner had something to say. And I think that made everybody's day a little bit. Because let's be honest, I mean, if you're a Fever fan, you should, you know, are well in your rights to not like DeWanna Bonner. And that is, clearly on Caitlin Clark's mind too, considering how Clark felt about Bonner early in the season and what she said. I mean, this was going back to before the season started, I believe.
For me as a second,
I got to put the audio up. Here we go.
For me as a second-year point guard, like I want to win for her. Like this is the end of her career. Like she deserves it.
I want to win for her. I want to win for her. And then she winds up walking out the door. So there you have it. And I'm sure that pissed off basically everybody in the locker room. I'm sure, that hurt Clark. But again, I mean, seeing that spunk from her was encouraging. That was the bright spot to me, in the sense that, you got players out there, and Stephanie White is going to get flamed as usual, where, especially when you have Alyssa Thomas saying this after the game.
On both sides of the ball. Huge advantage. I mean, like you said, we played, 2 years? Everything's pretty much the same stuff. Defense, offense, we know everything they're about to do.
We know everything they're about to do. Now, I mean, they've also got, the backups to the backups are out. And it gets tough when that's the situation. And Odyssey Sims has just got onto the team. So many reasons for the Fever to not exactly be the most, innovative team. And with that said, the struggles, it eventually weighs on you. And I think it weighs on everybody a little bit. And by the way, Alyssa Thomas, for all the talking she did, she was absent when the Fever won that game. And didn't even do the post-game press conference. So that's kind of where it sits, kind of where it stands. Just felt, I don't know, exhausting to me. I was exhausted last night. I'm kind of exhausted by the season, and I haven't played. Imagine the people who are involved and have had to go through it. But I did find that one bit of silver lining, which was the fight that Caitlin Clark showed. And I know people are going to say, like, you idiot, she's out and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's as simple as that. I don't think anybody's been, I don't think the conspiracy theories are true. I do think the ankle thing could have been handled better, communicated better, especially once it was out publicly. I do think there could be a little bit more transparency as to where things stand. I do think we could stand to hear from Caitlin Clark herself. Even if the statement would be the same, the source would matter. We haven't heard from Caitlin Clark since All-Star in an official capacity. But at the same time, I do think the situation is a little bit more complicated than people think, or than it seems on the surface, where it's this recovery that had a setback that requires basically building back up from scratch, considering all the different injuries, and being mentally ready and confident. It's that versus what's left in the season. And where do these two things meet? Can they still meet in the regular season? I mean, Stephanie White said that's the hope. So she left the door open. That's the hope. Then there's the playoffs. And I'm not one of these people that think you shouldn't bring Clark back in the playoffs if she didn't play in the regular season. So what? If she's ready, she's ready. I mean, bottom line is when Clark is ready, she should play. Full stop. Whether it's one regular season game left, whether it's the playoffs, whenever it is. When Clark is ready, she should play. And from what I've known about her throughout her career, and hell, what I saw last night with DeWanna Bonner, she's going to want to play when she's ready. Member chats, super chats go first. Bobby from Nebraska, will CC return versus Chicago? You know, that is what I had thought. At this point, I would say no, given what Coach said yesterday. So maybe Sunday. Hell, maybe just the last regular season game against the Lynx at home. I mean, that's starting to seem like a possibility, at least to me, where that's would technically still be in the regular season, would give her one game on the 9th, Tuesday, to get ready. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, it was an exhausting day. They always say it's the darkest before dawn. And according to the updated ESPN Power Index thing, the Fever still have an 89% chance of making the playoffs, though a date with the Lynx in the first round would be tough. Member chats, super chats go first. I'll get to the member chats in a minute. Threw up Bobby from Nebraska. Thank you for that. I want to get to a few other things, though, before I go into the chats heavy. This is interesting. This happened basically just now. Angel Reese kind of put the Chicago Sky organization on blast. I mean, didn't really hold back. She said this stuff on the record as far as, you know, how she's looking at the team, and talked about the Valkyries watching Golden State. No offense, I don't think they're more talented than us on paper. They play hard as hell. So starting at the top, we got to find an identity of what we're going to be next year and then roll with the punches of what we can get. And, you know, we can't rely on Courtney to come back at the age she's at. I know she'll be a great asset for us, but we can't rely on that. We need someone probably a little younger with some experience, somebody who's been playing the game and is willing to compete for a championship and has done it before. We need great players, and I don't know what will attract that. Maybe the practice facility will attract that. But I think the priority is being able to convince free agents that this is an organization that is going in the right direction. I think, honestly, it would be a leap of faith for a great player to come here and show this is something we want to be a part of and can bring a championship mentality. And that wasn't even it. You know, Reese also said something about leaving, or at least threatened the idea of leaving Chicago. See if I can. I thought I had that in the screenshots. Give me 1 second here. But yeah, I mean, that was, she basically said she's here now, but things can always change. So we can't settle for what we have this year. That's another quote. That's all stuff from the Chicago Tribune. So Angel Reese puts the Chicago Sky on blast, basically saying, improve this situation around me, or I could be out. I mean, more or less, that's paraphrasing. That's the tone. That's the read. And that's the pressure she's applying to the front office, really to the coach in Tyler Marsh as well. And it's been a disaster of a season for the Chicago Sky. There's no way around it. They're also not particularly well primed for the future, well positioned, given the assets that they gave up. We'll see if Angel shaking the table makes a difference or not, but it's certainly intriguing and adds a little extra sauce to the end of the season in Chi-Town, considering it was a year that was lost. That's, what you have right there. So those are the comments from Reese. It's the Chicago Tribune. See if I can find more of it for you. Yeah. It's on a paywall, and I don't have a current account for the Chicago Tribune because I just don't. I don't think you're owed an explanation for that. Still, definitely interesting comments from Angel Reese. As far as what she said about the Valkyries, a little shade in the Valkyries' direction. They deserve a little credit, too, while we're on the subject. I loved what Natalie Nakase said last night. This was a little bit. Let me share that with you. This is about taking Carla laid out of the game after a turnover at one point.
But then you brought her back to make some big plays down the stretch. Did you prepare her in any way for the return?
Yeah, I told her I don't care if she turns the ball over. I said, I know she's not trying to turn the ball over. Like I said, sometimes she's just getting physically bumped. So if she gets physically bumped, like what's going to happen? Well, she might lose the ball. I told her, I don't care. I said, I'm going to put you back in and you're going to kick some ass. And that's what she did. I just kind of gave her a breather, like, because they were kind of being super physical. So I said, hey, I'm just going to give you a breather. You're going to go right back in. I trust her completely. I trust her with making the calls. She's brilliant down the stretch. She's very brilliant down the stretch. And she likes big plays. She is not scared to do that step back three. She is not scared. And so you need players like that. You need players who can close.
So I love the way she instilled the confidence in her player there. Really great comments from Nakase, who would be my vote for Coach of the Year. No question at this point in time. But that's the situation there in Chicago. Angel Reese trying to, I guess, use her leverage, her voice. I mean, it's on the record, so it ain't like she's hiding it. It ain't like she's hiding it. Very interesting. That was a new wrinkle taking place today. Then there was one other thing before I get to the comments, and this is out of the NBA, but I feel like it's broadly interesting. What happened with Kawhi Leonard and Pablo Torre, who I'll play the clip, or at least some of the clip from Pablo's show. So if you didn't see it, you have a little bit of the context. This was shared on social media, so obviously they are using it for promotion.
NBA executives were suspicious of how Steve Ballmer's Clippers landed the most valuable free agent on the market, Kawhi Leonard. That the NBA did not find that Ballmer got Kawhi by sweetening their offer.
Mm-hmm.
But also that in March 2025, this celebrity-endorsed, multi-billion-dollar, allegedly fraudulent tree brokerage named Aspiration, which promises to clear your conscience and your emissions, they filed for bankruptcy. And this is where the clue is. What David's looking at with his glasses on is a bankruptcy filing, and there's a list of creditors. The entities to which Aspiration and all of their alleged fraudulence still owes the most money. And what I noticed is what David is noticing right now, which is that on that list of creditors, up near the top, above the Boston Red Sox, is an LLC, a tiny little company that Aspiration owes $7 million. And that LLC's name, David, is what?
KL2 Aspire LLC.
And what does it list there under manager or member name?
Kawhi Leonard.
Whose NBA jersey number, just to connect all of the dots here, happens to be what?
Number 2.
So then the question is, the Aspire part of KL2 Aspire LLC, right? Because, okay, he's getting all this money, millions of dollars. What I started doing was scour the internet for any mentions of Aspiration. Any appearances, tweets, quotes, Instagram posts, anything by Kawhi Leonard endorsing Aspiration. And this was hard to find, which also might seem weird, right? Because every other celebrity Aspiration gave money to was well known. There was Drake offering a statement to Rolling Stone. There was Doc Rivers, Kawhi's own head coach. Robert Downey Jr. was cutting his commercial. That was the whole point of paying the A-list Avengers. But the grand total number of times that I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration, 0 times.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned Aspiration. And so what I started doing was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. A grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to interviews, which is also how I have exclusively obtained this signed and executed document.
In consideration of the rights and benefits granted to company hereunder, the company will pay KL2, which is Kawhi, $28 million in cash.
So basically, the allegation here is that the Clippers circumvented the salary cap in order to pay Kawhi Leonard. Steve Ballmer, the richest owner there is, they put out a statement saying they didn't do that, of course. But this is a big story. It's an explosive story, and I don't think it's something the NBA can take lightly at all. And for Kawhi Leonard, it kind of sullies his career a little bit, where this guy has been, he's a killer. He's clutch. There's no way around it. Kawhi Leonard, he reminds me, the way he plays actually reminds me of Kobe Bryant more than anybody else. And, Kawhi is somebody that I would take down the stretch of games, and at his peak is one of the better players I've ever seen. Now, his peak has not been very consistent because of obviously injuries. So he already had a strange career in that sense, where at the top of his game, he was one of the better players, but he was not at the top of his game for long enough to be in that true pantheon. But now the guy is the face of load management, because really load management came from Kawhi Leonard and him not playing. Now he has a legit, injury condition, knee condition, but nonetheless, he's the face of load management. People can talk about anybody else. It started really with Kawhi Leonard. And then beyond that, now the face of circumventing the salary cap and the way this situation has shaken out. And I don't think, if you're the NBA, you can just sit idly by about that. I think you have to react swiftly and harshly if this is indeed the case. And shout out to Pablo, who I know a bit, but he's really found himself a lane and a platform and is making the most of it. So congratulations to him on that. So I just wanted to weigh in on that topic as well before I got to the comments. Member chats, super chats. Go first. As always, Brett Atwood says, only thing worse than getting no sleep because of a late night game is that the game being like the one last night. Yeah. Hey Boogie says, seeing you on Rosalina stream Sunday was cool. Thank you for watching. I got people telling me Clark is cooked for the season. Lexi Hull, yes, she was great yesterday again, as was Kelsey Mitchell. Those two played well. And so did Brianna Turner. Everybody else kind of struggled. Chris Ward says, DB should keep her shit talking to herself given the way she left. She did not handle it like a 15-year pro in the league. That said, the front office is not inspiring confidence despite the injuries. Well, I mean, the front office did a good job with who they brought in amid the injuries. And there are other issues, though, like why the backup point guard spot was so thin to start the season, why there isn't enough size on the wing. Definitely valid. And then you could look at the Dantas situation with the way Temi Fagbenle is playing for the Golden State Valkyries. That's certainly another thing that could be brought up. So usually the truth is somewhere. Look, I'm not against, I just feel like sometimes people go so far to criticize, or blame and harsh that I almost like reactively defend because it's so crazy. And especially considering the circumstances, but that doesn't mean there aren't things to criticize, if that makes sense. Kevin Zwicker, what up, chat? RIP Stream East. Did Stream East got canceled or shut down? And Kevin also weighing in on Angel Reese. She just got there and wants out. Yeah, I mean, those comments are going to make some noise. That's for sure. You don't usually see a player, blast the organization like that. Or, I mean, borderline, like I said, threaten the organization like that. And, put their name on it. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Shaking the table is Angel. Definitely interesting. Remember, super chats go first. Please like and subscribe. Hit all those click-ins. Por favor. I don't know if everybody else is as exhausted as I am. Like it does. It is a season that has taken a toll, right? It has taken a toll. And, it's got to take a toll. I do have empathy for the coach and players as well, because it has had to have taken a toll on them also. It's not something that, they're not feeling, doesn't wear on them. Only 3 games left in the regular season. That's it. I'm reading a quote on Twitter that hasn't, obviously watched the show, but so Holly 2012, who likes to give me crap there. A Steph White apologist. The Mercury team were making fun of her schemes. Like, I get all that all the time too. Like, I'm not a Stephanie White apologist. I'm a realist. All right. Like, if you want to criticize her, that is fine. But there is a sector of the fans, a section of the fans who blame everything on her and make it out like this has been some abject failure of a season. When she hasn't had Caitlin Clark. And they hold whatever happened with Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White and the way the beginning of the season started as some sort of like forever smear on Stephanie White. Alyssa Thomas can say that. What schemes or whatever again, she's running out there with Odyssey Sides and Odyssey Sims and Shea Petty, who just got signed. They're on hardship contracts after Ari McDonald is out, after Sydney Colson is out. And of course, a team is going to be a little familiar with what you do when they played for you, especially somebody like Alyssa Thomas, who's a floor general. Now, you could say Stephanie White should mix it up. You could say Stephanie White, has poor rotations at times if you want to make that case, or shouldn't have started the Valkyries game in a zone, or should have called timeout earlier in one of the games earlier in the season. Like, I'm fine with criticism. And fine. And you know what? Also, even the criticism of, when the Bonner situation, and this is Stephanie White protecting her players, but then when the Bonner situation came around, she was evasive on that. And now in the Clark situation, she's semi-evasive on that. All things that are fair to criticize. But I'm so sick and tired of people, I get these comments all the time. I have no skin in the game. There is no benefit to me defending Stephanie White. I have no incentive to do so. I'm just giving you my thoughts on the season as a whole. Like I said, it's exhausting. It's exhausting dealing with all that crap too. Comes with the territory, of course. You know, but I also, who is she supposed to play? Who is she supposed to play? Well, look at the box score last night. Dantas only got 8 minutes. Shea Petty only got 6 minutes. Ariel Powers played 20 minutes. Brianna Turner played 19 minutes. She played well. The only active player who didn't play was Timpson. I mean, Natasha Howard was on a short leash. There's just not many options, y'all. So we'll see. And the Caitlin Clark situation is exhausting too. It really is. It really is. I reject this notion that the Fever should tank. That's stupid. It's basically, first of all, like impossible to tank. Secondly, it spits in the face of what they've done. Thirdly, they're still going to be in the playoffs most likely. You know? And these teams below them, I mean, there's only one spot that they could get. And by the way, you guys don't even look at bring that up. Like, look at the schedules for the Sparks and the Storm. The Sparks play at Atlanta twice in a row, Dallas at Phoenix, and then against Vegas. So maybe Vegas is sitting people that last game, but Phoenix can still be playing for seeding. So 3 of their next 4 are in Atlanta or Phoenix. You think they're sweeping those games? Seattle. Let me look at their schedule right now. Seattle they got New York on Friday and then Golden State. They've only got 2 games left. Wow. But regardless, both tough games. And the Fever have the tiebreaker over Seattle. So, and then again, I know people are going to call me stupid or whatever. I don't think Caitlin Clark isn't trying to come back. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Where she is practicing or working her way up, like that is for a purpose. The question of whether she's ready or feels good enough to be back out there, those are all open-ended. But I don't think there has been a predetermined decision to shut her down or that she's not coming back for the season. And if so, that's going to be a whole mess when it comes out. And by the way, Caitlin Clark has the power in this situation because she is the one who has the most influence and the most gravitas. So, ultimately what she says would go. See if this article, Indy Star, Nate Newell, is this one on a paywall too? Yeah. Fever playoff opportunities. Oh, I was going to look at it, but I can't sign up for things when I'm in the midst of a live show. So sorry. A little difficult. Get your likes, subscribes in, please, por favor. Member chats, super chats, as always, go first. Sea Gazer says Sky is not an easy game. Angel Reese and Cardoso combined have a size advantage. Fever performed badly when playing big teams. Well, I mean, they haven't performed badly when playing the Sky. They've smacked the Sky every time they've played them. Not to say they couldn't lose the game, but they've smacked the Sky when they've played them. Like, it hasn't even been. Jules says, why should CC risk injury to play in the playoffs? Groin injuries take a long time to heal. If she had rested properly the first time, then maybe she still wouldn't be in this rehab situation. I agree with the last part. Why? I mean, you always are at risk for injury when you're a professional athlete because you're a professional athlete and paid to play the sport and you love the sport and your team is in the playoffs. And if her groin, it is my understanding that she would be back if not for the ankle. And that's what the setback was. So that would be another reason, which would mean the groin would have had more time to heal. Benny M says if CC is practicing to just not come back, then she's part of the deception as well. Well, yeah, I mean, again, I'd like to hear from Caitlin Clark, but yes, I don't believe Caitlin Clark is on the floor for no reason. Does CC have the ultimate say, though? Again, I'm not so sure with this front office. She does if she wants to. It would depend on, how much she's willing to put her foot down. But I would imagine she, would. Anthony says, why should Caitlin risk injury by ever playing? Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. Katie B says, but the ankle is holding her up. Why is she still non-contact? Shouldn't she be ramping up by now if the groin is fine, or do you think the ankle is that injured? I think the ankle set her back more than she thought. If I had to guess, I don't know. I just know, she would be she seemed like she was in a better trajectory until the ankle injury happened. Let's put it that way. And then as far as also Stephanie White could be being coy too. We can't put that past her. And I don't even say that as a negative really, but she could be being coy on exactly what Caitlin Clark has or hasn't done. They also know that the cameras are out there. They know people are seeing Caitlin Clark on the practice floor. And I don't know. I took it as a good sign. The way she got into it with Bonner. I did. I took that as a good sign. Chris Ward says there is no way CC is not dying to get on that court. She's competitive as hell. I mean, she also has to be right? It's like, look, nobody's 100, the idea of 100%, it's like that's difficult. But she has to be right, confident in herself on the court. Tay Boogie says if she's not back by Friday, she's not coming back at all. It makes no sense for her to come back playoff level basketball after 2 months off. I disagree. What's the difference between playoffs and regular season? Same sport. Yeah, it's a little bit more intense. I mean, ideally, she gets ramped up. Ideally. Groin can be tweaked out of nowhere. Yeah, so can anything. She doesn't play. They don't play again until May. Again, if the doctors and the health people say this is a significant re-injury risk or something along those lines, fine. But otherwise, that's what happens. You get injured, you get better, you come back. It's been 8 weeks coming up next week. On Tuesday, 8 weeks. 7 weeks already. I'm not being delusional and dishonest, Justin. You could say I'm being delusional because you think differently than me. I personally don't think I'm delusional, and I'm certainly not being dishonest. I'm telling you the truth as I see the situation. I am working. I try to find out more about the situation all the time. But, sometimes, remember what Sophie Cunningham said? About, nobody knows, she doesn't know, all that stuff. Maybe that's just true. Sorry, Miss Roto Wings. This is the second time. I like interacting with the audience too. And, voicing the contrary comments. I was kind of worried about that a little bit, Tulip, but then I saw what happened with Bonner last night, and it made me think otherwise. Brett Atwood says some could argue coming off the bench in the playoffs could be a huge advantage for the Fever. A fresh bench CC is scary. Look, I mean, if CC's back, she should be playing, starting, running the show. That's who she is. Anyhow, y'all, gonna hop out of here in a minute. Yeah, Sophie Cunningham also doesn't strike you like somebody who would not tell it like it is, right? That's kind of her brand, her MO. Telling it like it is. So, well, the pros are they're in the playoffs. You win 2 games, you get to you get a series away from the finals. That's the pros. You only have so many seasons in a career. I don't know. It depends on when she's ready. If let's take it at face value for a second. Like, let's take it at face value where she's going to play when she's ready. Well, when she's ready, she should play whenever that is. Ideally, yes, it's before the playoffs. Ideally. And they play Minnesota. They're probably not winning 2 games, but you never know. They beat Minnesota. They've hung with them before. Thank you, Eve Ill Anderson. I mean, you can always, I promise you that. Like, I will give you what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. I'll try to do a 360 assessment of the situation. But I ain't just going to say stuff for the sake of saying it or because other people are saying it. Or rage bait you. I'm not going to do that either. I mean, it's super easy to do that. Probably lucrative. I don't know. They did beat the Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup. I mean, when you're ready based on how you feel. Your body, athletes know. I mean, it's not going to be the first time she's injured either. Athletes get injured. I mean, that's part of the game, part of the sport, part of life. They face pressure too. that they have to rise to the occasion. That's part of being a superstar. And in Caitlin Clark's situation, you have to remember like her superstar status. That's what does lend credence to the oddity of this situation, where I try to think like, how would this go if this was LeBron James or Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that? The way this has all been handled and communicated. That's why I brought up, and I had people in my mentions going after me for saying, I'd like to hear from Caitlin Clark. Like that's some sort of terrible thing to say. Oh, I'd like to hear from her. Sorry. The biggest star in the sport, the biggest star on the team, the biggest star in women's sports, perhaps the biggest star in American sports. Haven't heard from her in 2 months. Wouldn't mind hearing from her out of her own mouth. What's going on? Sorry. My bad. For the asinine statement. And again, why is she on the practice? Let me find the practice footage again from yesterday. What's the point? I mean, yeah, playing with the team, getting ready, blah, blah, blah. But what is first of all, they know the cameras are going to catch it and see it. Secondly, like, this is more than she was doing before. Right? It's like almost she's building up. Running out of ramp, running out of runway. But physically, she don't look far off there to me. So all these other things are arbitrary, like contact and, the amount of practices she needs to have or whether there's practices. They can do that. They could simulate that at any time. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny that they can't simulate that at any time. That they can't have her do that today with a group of people that, they hire or practice players. They could do that today. They could do it tomorrow. They could do it Friday. Why not? And the amount of time she has to do it, it's until she's ready and right and clear. And whether it's contact or not, again, that's what Stephanie White is saying. Doesn't mean, there's a lot going on here. It is confusing. It is frustrating. It's all those things. It is odd. Or was I mean, the time I really called it out was the day of the ankle injury. Or the day that, not the day of the ankle injury, but the day we found out about the ankle injury, which then made sense to me. In sense. But, bottom line, I think she should play when she's ready to play. If she's ready to play and believes she's ready to play, she should be on the floor. Whether it's Friday, Tuesday, Sunday, the day the playoffs start, any of those days. Yeah, 12 days is a lot. It's another 2 weeks. That would make it basically 10 weeks, 9-10 weeks. Smiling Through Life says, agree, Robin. I just can't believe folks don't want to hear from CC herself. I do. She's a bright and articulate woman. I think the Fever organization consistently make communication errors. Look, I think they tried to protect her and not put pressure on her. And that was the correct tact at the time. But there's been a lot of time between now and then. And then again, the ankle thing was a speed bump. And the fact that they put out that statement afterwards, that was insulting to me. The whole, there's no way to see if her timeline was affected or no, because there was no timeline. Come on. Not a child. And then now, after so much time has passed, it's almost like, it's almost as if they just were playing a tape of what she said before. Thank you, Element Gold. Says how you have covered this topic up into the ankle gives you a ton of legitimacy. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it's a conspiracy. Oh yeah, I'm working. Trust me, I also, it's not as if everything I say to you is like the only thing, I what I feel comfortable. How do I put this? My opinions are not based on nothing either. Not that I've had an interview with Kate, obviously. All right, y'all. That'll have to do it for today. Get your likes, get your subscribes in, thumbs up, all those things. Appreciate any member chats, super chats. I'll give you another 90 seconds to get any of those in. All the memberships, all the support, as always. And, until the next one, though. I mean, I've told y'all what I more or less know, or assume, or strongly believe to be the case. And some of it's, out in plain sight. It's just, it's it's frustrating. Frustrating to me. It's exhausting. The whole thing has been exhausting. Thank you. So maybe I'll take a nap. Till the next one.